platform is it has its own you all experience this, right? It has its own embedded AI that summarizes meetings, so which is awesome. I may record or not, it clicks in the they call it the assets for the meeting. Very helpful. Okay, well, good morning again. Let's have you all bow your heads and let's pray together. Father, we're grateful for a time where we could gather. We know this is the first thing in the morning to some of us, and thankful, dear Lord, for our churches all throughout the weekend. God, the Vacation Bible School have already kicked in a few of our congregations, and we are just delighted, dear God, that the gospel is alive. The people, there are good numbers of people that will be touched by the gospel this season. We pray for the work of your spirit among their lives and the continuous encouragement among our churches. Guide us all as we deliberate and look at some of the issues that we need to prepare ourselves, especially for our Oahu Baptist Network. And collectively, we say praise to you, oh God, for what you have done in the time of worship and celebration over the weekend. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, and let me just say we are in. On your admin team link, you will find, let me see now, our notes in February 23, and then also our most recent admin list from OBN leadership team meeting. So February 23, we met, and then all throughout the leadership team meeting with our council, we kept on bringing up some of these issues, and so that's where we're at as of today. Unless you tell me, is that where we're at, or do we have a particular? I know that our particular agenda is what is to move our constitution bylaws forward. Is there anything else that you have in mind? Okay. Do I need to share my screen or everybody have their notes open? Okay. Let's go to the February 23. I'm sorry. Let's just go to the May 21, the admin reports during the OBN leadership team meeting. And just to pick up the conversation, we have discussed the faith. It says their faith to send out statement givings to the church 2025 to encourage contributions. We'll skip that. Faith's not here. We have an admin team meeting February 23. There it is. OBN tax exempt status. And we were in the middle of all of this, trying to figure out whether we are a separate entity or not. And we find out that we are a subordinate group exception under our parent organization. And so, having said that, then the next question came to us is, would it be then better for us to look into having our own 501c3 registration? I think that's where we're at. In the last meeting, and Jamie, we missed you.
Yeah.
Matt, you were there. Charlene, we missed, no, 2 months ago meeting.
Was there?
Yeah, I think 2 months ago meeting, during the leadership team meeting. A few of us gave some opinions, but again, we didn't have the admin at that time, so we're picking up the conversation from that point. Are there any questions on where we're at? And just to clarify, your 2020, it's not 2025 proposed CNBL, it's supposed to be 2026 proposed CNBL. So that you have a reference to the manuscript. I just changed.
Just because I was out, I think I was out with my dad and that, can you give me a summary or like what was the general discussion within the group as to whether we should be looking towards registering in our own right or not taking a step like that?
We did not have much opinion except for Matt and myself during the leadership team meeting because we were not complete at all. So
Okay,
the
all right.
opinions that we gave was we for me personally we wanted to clarify the ramifications for 501(c)(3). Matt mentioned about Matt has questions as to the need for it and if there is such a need. And again, that's where we're at. It's an open conversation. There's no final. And none of the leadership team gave opinions because we did just move forward and move into the next agenda.
Okay. The if if I would be in favor of us taking serious steps. Of course, uh, each step is just one more step, not the final step, but that we take serious steps towards um, more exploration and making that registration um, like I put in the document, I recommend that we do it, but it's not necessarily the most important thing that we have to do right today.
It came up again last meeting. We missed some of you then. And the conversation along was the receiving of donations. That if there were any donations given directly to OBN as opposed to via the local church, the question is, we're not able to recognize the gifts of individuals. We're only because the churches are to do that. Um, so that's the only conversation we had. We kind of felt comfortable to say, then let's just continue that protocol for now until such a time that we have forward a conversation. And that came about because the missions, the OBN evangelism missions were asking the question, what if somebody donates straight to OBN? And the answer that we gave is, well, give it to the church and let the church manage um, recognize the receipt of the donation and then forward it to OBN. Okay. Matt and Charlene, your thoughts?
Well, I guess there's now two different topics. So the first topic, as far as the nonprofit, whatever, that I don't feel strongly one way or another. So it doesn't really matter to me. I'm not sure all the, or I don't really have a, like, I don't, because of what it is, I don't see it as a theological issue. I don't see it as even the practical value of it. But if people want to do it, I'm not opposed to it. Uh, as far as donations, I don't know why you would want to route stuff through the church. Uh, they can send it to us. We are a nonprofit. We're part of the HPBC nonprofit, so there's no reason that it can't come straight to us. I wouldn't understand, uh, and especially in some situations, it might be better. If the person belongs to a church that kind of has a robust evangelism and missions ministry and maybe even has a fund for that. Like, I mean, our church has one. So if somebody wanted to give to it, they could. But if their church didn't, then there's no guarantee that money's going to be used the way that they want it to be used. So to me, if it, if they wanted to see the value of pooling together resources through OBN, and there's a trust of OBN, then why, I don't know why we would say no.
I guess I'm like me. I don't see a real need for us to have this designation. Um, I know it's a process that once we undertake, if we don't complete it within the time limit, we would lose our money. But you know, that's besides the point. But yeah, I don't know that we really need it.
The concern that Matt brought up, of course, the opinion is that okay, well, we need it or not need it, but do understand that that when a gift is given and it's funneled through the church, the issue that was raised is, well, how do we know that that money is going to go straight to where it's intended to for the OBN if it gets through the church? Um, um, and that probably is one issue to look into as to the need for this 501c3. The second point is, Matt, you brought up the idea that we can recognize gifts from individuals. And is that, I've, from what I heard from the last meeting, we cannot because
Who
we're
said,
only
who said we cannot?
the sentiment. It's not the who said. The sentiment that I felt was that the gifts should be just coming from the church, and we are supported by the church rather than by individuals.
Okay, there's a difference between we cannot and we choose not. Okay.
Mhm.
If the OBN says we would rather have the money go through the churches and come to us, if churches are like, yeah, sure, we don't mind being a conduit. We don't mind taking the extra step of having to, cut a check, do all the accounting and bookkeeping and everything else. I mean, if everybody's like, yeah, we don't mind because we think that's better from a philosophical standpoint, oh, fine, then do it. But if someone says we cannot, that's a different thing. I don't know anything like legally that says you cannot. So,
Right.
uh,
Well, let me move it forward to the question. The point is, can we issue a recognition of? Can we recognize someone's gift
yes,
because
we can.
someone else has to claim it on their end?
Yes, and you can. There's no. I mean, we are part of a nonprofit. We acknowledge gifts at the Hawaii Baptist Foundation. And what
Right.
sometimes happens is there can be a double acknowledgement. Like we can say something like if I gave to like you're saying,
Mhm.
if I gave to Wildeye and then Wildeye passed it on to us, and they said, hey, this was a gift that was given to us by this person, and there's no like I want to remain anonymous. I don't know why OBN wouldn't send a thank you letter to that person, an acknowledgement letter of, and say, hey, thank you for your gift of $1,000 for the, you know, that you made to your church. And I don't know why you wouldn't. So I don't know. Yeah, I think we're maybe overcomplicating this a little bit, but it is what it is.
Well, it does make sense. I realize, understand that that is in line to where we're at. We can recognize. I guess the complications is when the word that is used is, can we issue a tax deductible receipt? And the acknowledgement of a gift, is that equivalent to a sort of, yeah, somebody can get that letter and say, hey, I gave this to OBN $1,000 and put it in their tax deduction?
Yeah,
Is it
as long as we include the information that should be included, like if they gave it directly to us, we could, we can give a tax receipt or a contribution giving statement to them because the one you get from your church, it's not a legal document.
Hmm.
It's not a tax form. It's just a letter, and it
Right.
just has numbers in it, right?
Mhm.
That's the evidence that you need. And I'm pretty sure that if somebody got audited, they might need more than that letter, but I don't know. But the letter is at least, it serves the dual purpose of being an acknowledgement and being a written record from the institution that this money was received. And if the person wants to use it for their taxes or whatever other purposes they have. They can do it with it what they want.
Mm. The reality is we do receive monies from people for our events and for our camps, but we have not written a recognition at the end of the year because no one really asked for it.
Yeah. So are you saying, because there's a distinction between my kid is going to camp and I'm paying for it,
Mhm.
as opposed to, hey, I don't have any kids, but I want to give $500 for the camp. Those are two different things.
They are. That's right.
So if somebody said the
Okay.
second one, I want to give money to help with the camp, here's a $500, $1,000, or I want you to scholarship two kids that I don't even know. By all means, we should recognize them. We should send an acknowledgement letter. But if they said, if it's just camp registration, or if it's just, like we're having a conference or workshop and there's a fee for materials, that's not the same thing. It's a different.
Got it. All right. Thoughts or questions from anyone?
I think the main issue is whichever way we decide, right? We got into this conversation because of its implication for our constitution and bylaws.
Correct.
So if we keep it the way it is, then we throw out much of what the lawyer that reviewed things, because we're not a 501(c) from a federal standpoint, so we don't have to meet all these requirements and so on. Um, and if we choose to continue that way, then again, that's the path we choose. And, um, then that's how we do it. Basically keeping things the same as we have and acknowledging, as far as our organizational documents, that that's our status as a subordinate organization under the HPBC umbrella. If there's any compelling reason, or there's any thought that in the future, we might see a need, or there's a potential risk in, 1, 2, 3, 5 years of having to do it, then to change at that point would also mean having to go back and rework our constitution bylaws again. So that's really kind of if we do it, it's because it gives us clarity in terms of our organizational documents that we're still trying to bring forward. And if we don't, then that helps us clarify how to word things and kind of get on with the process.
Well, I'm not 100% sure. First of all, we're not a subordinate organization. So, I
Well,
mean,
yes. Well, just
there's a difference between, like, all of the things about, what's required of nonprofits and things like that from a state perspective, and then what is required from uh, and what the federal actually is. The federal it's pretty much dealing just with taxes, and that's it. It's not talking about institutional things whatsoever. If we believe that the need is to move to become an independent organization, like completely independent of HPBC, then what you're saying would make sense, because then you're saying, like, okay, we would need our own nonprofit. We would also have to comply. We'd have to establish ourselves as a nonprofit that's recognized in the state, which means we'd have to meet the state requirements, which we already do most of them anyways. Like, we have a board, we would just have to designate it as such. You
right.
know, we don't necessarily have trustees, and we do have a sufficient number of meetings. But I mean, if that's the what we're trying to do, then that's a much more involved process.
Well, I thought my memory um, of the conversation was, when we undertook the legal review, there was lots of language in the review, the feedback that was given to us, and there were lots of questions asked about our proposed constitution and bylaws, which could only be answered if we figured out definitively, are we, again, by subordinate, I just mean that we are making use of HPBC's 501(c) status. And again, I think we all shared a little bit of frustration that the gentleman that helped us with that legal review really didn't have a very church-centric or informed opinion. He was just like kind of Hawaii 501(c) informed. So I wish I wish that we had a little bit more church-informed or church-centric legal counsel available to us. Um, so yeah, and again, my argument is that there is strong precedent in the mainland from quite a long time ago of associations within their state convention having their own registered 501(c). And in the research that I did that I submitted, it's on the link is on there. I just point out that there are things that we're in a new legal state, which a status, I mean, which I think suggests that we should establish that we're not just a non-subordinate organization, but that we're legally firewalled independent organization that willingly chooses to cooperate and to, share resources and be mutually supportive and so on. If those things are not compelling, then I think we just need to say, okay, we're going to keep things the way they are and assume that we're not going to have, any difficulties with this in the future and get on with it.
So on the in regards to the lawyer, which probably we can transition to that conversation now, because the question that we have, the question that is asked of us is, what else have we met the suggestions that Attorney Park has given to us? I put a link on your agenda. It's a second link. It was not there a while ago. It is there now. And if you open that link, you will see his checklist. And of course, part of his checklist, page 2, is the 501(c)(3). And we can cross that out if our team today decides, listen, we're okay. We don't have to move forward in that. But the other points would be something that we have to address. So do you have that in front of you?
I don't. I'm walking to my office.
Okay. And Matt, is it helpful if I share it on the screen, or is it better I just verbally read it through? It's got maybe 9 bullet points that he suggests, and we can cross out what we've already talked about. Okay, so yeah. So here's the first one on membership, and I'll just cut and paste it in the chat room. On membership, here is what he recommends: that the membership consists of representatives of the churches rather than the churches are as organizations. And we addressed this already. Did we not make any change? We did not, right? We just said no, we are comfortable of the language that we have.
The last time
Yes.
I remember the conversation, I thought it was, we don't know the answers to the issues raised. So that's why, we went off on this whole kind of, yeah, I think in terms of membership and representative, yeah, that's okay.
Okay. All right. Okay, so we're moving on to his second point, and he asked the question. He suggests the question that messengers are not strictly necessary from legal perspective. I would shy away from giving messengers an operative legal role in the organization.
Yeah.
And I think somehow we also said no, we're comfortable with the language that we have on the messenger.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then so we knocked out two already. Um that's good. And then the next one that he brought up is board of directors. And he says that Hawaii law requires all nonprofits to have board of directors. Currently, your document refers to U.S. leadership team, but recommend that you call them directors. Now, we also did say that by definition, if we get into a legal conversation, we are actually represented by our team. We do not need to mention the word directors at all because that's not the language we choose to adopt and to convey to our members. And is that precise? Are we okay with that? Well, we can cross that out too, right?
Well, go ahead, Jamie.
No, I thought we had talked about somewhere in the document, we said something like, um,
Oh,
in recognition of Hawaii law that requires all nonprofits to have a board of directors, the OBN leadership team referred to throughout this document will serve the purpose of board of directors for all legal and local requirements. So then it's in there, so then we have like that translation, like when you read OBN leadership team, we agree that that fulfills the purpose of board of directors, but then we don't have to change our language.
Jamie, is that in the February 23 minutes? Is that what you're reading from?
Well, I have no idea. That's just off my memory.
Okay, you got a sharp memory there. I'm
Yeah.
looking at February 23 meeting that we had because we did discuss a few of this. Um, Charlene, do you have? I have the February 23 meeting in front of me. It's all you have also have a link of that. In fact, that's your first link. We see now director. Board of directors. Yes, we are
Yeah,
in
there it is. Yeah,
page one. Okay.
yeah. Yeah,
And
it's at the bottom of page one. It says the OBN leadership team shall fulfill all the requirements of the Hawaii state law and shall serve as the board of directors for legal purposes. And then
okay.
there was something about the indemnification and then conflict of interest needs further specific clarification and wording.
Okay. It sounds like this is the agenda we need to follow as opposed to going through that list that he pointed out. Is that fair? Okay. This indemnification and conflict interest need wording. Jamie, do you remember what is the wording?
I don't.
Okay.
Recording in progress.
Okay. Let me open what document do I need to open to follow through this indemnification and conflict of interest need wording?
Let's see.
Okay. And Matt, we are in document February 23, the admin meeting. We are now in page one, bottom. I'm going to open the proposed constitution bylaws, 2026 proposed. And tell me, are we in officers? Is that what we're cleaning up? Board of directors. The OBN leadership team shall fulfill all requirements.
So where are we at?
We are in February 23 admin meeting. That is
The minute?
the first link of your agenda. Yes, the minutes. Admin meeting notes via Zoom, February 23. And we are in page one, bottom. So Matt, instead of me going through Doc Attorney Park's document, we are now following the previous meeting that we had in February.
So have the changes we suggested been incorporated into a draft of the bylaws?
I have not done any work at all.
Okay. So to me, like that would be the next step. Like somebody needs to and really look at all the different things because this is what happened, right? We do it like this
Mhm.
and we try to talk about it, wordsmith it, whatever, and then we lose it or it's been a while and then we don't have anybody that's actually working on a new draft of this. Um, and to go back to something I was trying to say when I was changing from my phone to my computer. Um, Jamie, when you looked at churches, I mean, associations that did what you're talking about, what
Mhm.
was the rationale,
Um,
or was there a motivating reason?
I I talked to a someone in Bong's position, the in West Virginia, and I talked to another one in Charlotte, and it was to be in truth separated, uh, because we say we're an independent organization or that we're not a subordinate organization, yet on paper, we clearly are, under the umbrella of and under the auspices of, just from on paper, again, not understanding Baptist polity and denominational patterns. So I think it was more just like, let's actually be who we say we are, independent and fully fully engaged in cooperative, fruitful relationship.
So
Uh,
is so just because I can think of there could be that kind of reason, and of course, with all the politics that are going on in different
right,
states, some associations are trying to be independent because, frankly, in Texas, North Carolina, a couple other states, I think they have two state conventions,
right,
and then when there's only one, if the association, like as we all know, the churches that tend to be in the cities tend to be more liberal or moderate. Churches that are in the more rural areas tend to be more conservative. And, you know, there could be this feeling of, hey, they don't want the smaller rural association doesn't want the big cities to dominate everything. Um, so I don't know. I'm just
uh,
guessing because I've never talked to anybody about this. And whether that's the number one reason, there may be underlying reasons for doing that. Um, and because, by the way, the same case you're making for the association is the same case you would make for your church, that your church should have its own not 501(c).
we're talking about it in
Right.
all of, yeah, we're we see kind of, there is a level of cognitive dissonance there. I think I think the other reason, which I think I tried to put in my paper there, was to try to push away from umbrella organizations closer to a church-centric perspective. So the most important thing in our universe as OBN is not our relationship to HVBC, but it's our relationship to our member churches. So, trying to anyway, just it what I can't remember everything that I wrote in that paper, but
Right.
I'm I I am for it, but I also recognize that it may be an unnecessary. It doesn't seem like it's a huge amount of money to undertake it, but it is just one more little paper chase hoop that has to be jumped through and boxes that have to be checked and so on. And it may not be compelling at this point. I hope I hope all the legal things do not come home to bite at the individual church or individual association level for sure.
Well, I think there's a couple of considerations to think about in terms of like, oh, are we together? Are we separate? Like I'm not 100% sure. I've never checked, but like say with HPBC, if they have say liability insurance and they have things that protect their staff and protect the executive committee, um, you know, the one of the benefits of being, part of that nonprofit would be like, hey, that it would protect us too. But my guess is that's not true.
Yeah, I would be shocked if that was the
Yeah.
way it operates.
Mm.
And so for us, for example, I don't know what insurance we have, right? I think if we were somehow part of, as we are now, I think we could make some case for that we should have been protected. But if we, one, in reality aren't, and they have no inclination to do it, then I think that's a sign of saying they want to kind of be that they either don't care one way or another, whether we're independent or not, or they kind of want it both ways. They want it where in some ways, they're providing this umbrella type thing, but not to the full extent of it. So it becomes of no benefit to us. And so for me, like if I'm thinking about, my, we're all getting older now, thinking about like what happens after we stop working. And it's like the worst thing would be like, if somebody from OBN has an event where a bunch of people get hurt, we could actually be sued for that. Like personally, not just the OBN, not just the person
Right.
who is directly involved, especially if we're going to identify ourselves as board of directors. And
That's why the indemnification language is so important
right.
that we get that right.
But we also need to have the insurance.
Yeah.
We need to make sure we have insurance that
In every level.
adequately covers us, not just, oh, we have insurance, but does our insurance actually cover? Who does it cover? How much does it cover? Because that's sadly happening at even now. Like, it's been recent where like since I coach, I know these things where coaches can now be sued personally as
Yes.
well as athletic directors, anybody in the food chain.
Yeah.
Even if that coach wasn't directly involved in what was happening,
Yes. And
they're all at
whoever has the deepest pockets.
exactly they're all at risk. And that used to not be the case. It used to be like they'd go after the school or they would go, or something like that, but or the person who was directly responsible.
Mm.
So to me, there's that reason. Um, and I don't know that we have yet the more negative reasons here, or if we're looking ahead into the future and thinking like, um, there's a reason that we want to be more independent of HVBC. And I mean, I'm willing to have that discussion. I'm willing to say like, if this was 10 years ago, and I was here and I first started hearing about, the HVBC reorganization and everything like that, I would have actually at that point been very strongly in favor of, no, we need to be more independent, not not more. We don't need to take a step towards being more, under that organization because that was even though it had the language of, oh, you're autonomous, but we have all your money.
Yeah.
We were subordinate. That's
Yeah.
legitimately subordinate because we were not directly collecting income. And at that point, I'd been like, yeah,
Mm.
that makes more sense.
Yeah.
And with the current, HVBC administration, I don't have a feel for what's going on. I don't know what, I just know stuff happens. Like this gateway stuff, it just happens. And I'm like, okay, um, um, you know, I'm either for it or I'm against it or I'm neutral or whatever because stuff just happens. And
Well, yeah, and that's where having I don't know. It's again, I do tend to operate on principle a lot. I'm like, you know what? If we're subordinate, then let's be subordinate. If we're independent, then um, you know,
right,
let's just make it plain exactly what we're, what who we are. And then our cooperation is voluntary, and maybe I just don't like getting disappointed by, it's like, hey, we're cooperating with you, but sometimes you don't seem all that cooperative with us.
right.
Um, so
Yeah, yeah, so like I said, I would be to me though, we need to think that all the way through. Like we need to say like, okay, it's not like we got to do it tomorrow.
yes, yes,
Does mean like we should have a plan in place because that means, you know, we can then embrace who we are,
mm,
right? And if we can embrace who we are, that we are largely a volunteer organization and we have maybe like, one or two paid staff, but we're largely volunteers and we're not seeing those paid staff as supplement. I mean, taking our place. Like they're not doing the job for us. Like we are volunteers volunteering to do the job. That's going to be the heart of our organization, rather than to say, oh, that's the staff's responsibility. It's like no, the staff's job is more to be like, if it's like a moderator, facilitator, it's somebody like that. They're actually the person that's supposed to be keeping things moving, keeping people communicating, whatever. And then if there's some kind of admin support, that's the person that's doing the stuff we don't have time to do, making sure all the logistical things are taken care of, all of that, the things about communications, the bookkeeping, the finance. But if we're going to go that way, then we should talk about it and go that way. And because otherwise we end up making two organizations that may or may not be that good and that healthy.
right,
So I mean, that's how I mean, I would love for yeah, I mean, for me, like if that's what we're going to do, we should, and that could be a 3 to 5 year transition. It doesn't have to be like, oh, today we're going to do it, which means we need to have we need to know all the steps, to Charlene's point, we don't want to start a process that we're not going to finish and then just, burn $500. So
right.
before we ever commit to the 500, we need to know where that's going in the end. And I think at that point, I can, I can see sometimes, and I understand this, and I don't want it to sound like I'm not, I'm being selfish about it because I'm not in a way, although it sounds that way. But if we look at HVBC, and HVBC is something like 75%, 80% of the churches, and HVBC though keeps spreading itself thinner and thinner. At some point in time, we're going to have to think like, well, if that's fine, let HVBC spread itself thin across the Asia Pacific Rim, but who's taking care of the churches on Oahu? where,
Mm.
which is in many ways the engine for the rest of HVBC. And if they're not
Yeah,
taking care of it, then we need to. That needs to be our responsibility.
yeah.
Uh,
I mean, why not, why aren't we the one offering a IRS cover letter umbrella for our own churches? Yeah, I mean, I
right.
know it's because of history and just the size and complexity of things, but these things are not these are not outlandish, unreasonable, or impossible, or based on my conversations without precedent now. And that
Yeah.
again, that's what I was trying to say earlier. That increases our church-centric relationship and operating mentality rather than, well, we're just the middleman. We're just kind of, we're kind of here and we're kind of in between you and convention. And yeah, those are some of my thoughts there, I think.
Well, and I think to me, like, as I think about this more, and I probably haven't thought about it nearly enough, but as I think about it more, in my 11 years being back, I'm still not sure what HVBC is. Just like when I first came to OBN, I wasn't sure what OBN is. I have a better idea of what OBN is, partly because, I've been there with all of you guys, crafting the documents, trying to get the vision and setting things out. But to me, like, um, I don't necessarily have, you know, all I know are vague phrases. I get slogans from, from what HVBC says, like better together, or we want to come alongside you,
No,
whatever
no,
the
no,
heck
no,
that.
no, no, no. That's been dropped from the vocabulary. I don't hear that anymore.
Well, good,
I
because I used to get really irritated every time I heard it. But
know. I
but
know.
but because it's not really clear, like what is, HVBC, where are they going? What is the purpose? I don't know. I have no idea. And every time I just think, it's almost like, what happens, and it happens in churches, as you know, when you finally get people kind of like jazzed up about doing things, and then everybody and their uncle has an idea, and they all want to do their idea at the same time. And then pretty soon you got 27 different ministries and you only got, 100 people in your church. And it's like, that's not good. That's not, it's great that they were so motivated and they cared, but it's not good because you don't have the resources to deal with it. And then it's like, so what are we? What are we actually, and it often takes away from the main focus of what the church should be. And so I'm just looking at, I look at HUBC, and I'm not saying they don't do that, there's not good stuff that happens. There is good stuff that happens. I
Right.
just don't know what it is. I don't know what the direction is. But with OBN, I have a better sense of that. And if we want to take the next step to solidify that and more define that, I'm down with that. And if it involves becoming, really setting up as a nonprofit to be recognized by the state that way and to be recognized by the federal government for tax purposes, I'm all for that.
Okay. Following the suggestion of a course of conversations in the topic of 501(c)(3, I need to know what path do we take.
Wait, wait. Yeah, no, all we did was just talk a bunch, but yes.
Okay, if it's a conversation, that's good. If it's there's a task to do behind the conversation, you let me know. Okay.
Well,
Uh,
to me, this is the task, right? So,
mhm,
so because you can work on, you can have multiple trains running at the same time, right? So
mhm,
while we might need to have like a 30,000 foot philosophical, theological, you know, view of this and discussion about that, that
mhm,
needs to include more than just, us, but certainly, which, we can talk about that. Well, simultaneously, someone can make sure we have all of the requirements to be a 501(c)(3) to get that. And I think, we've gone down that path some, but to make sure we know it's this, so that when we do it, it's not like we start the process. No, we have the process finished. We just haven't executed it yet. Second thing, same thing with the state. What does it mean to have the state? Third thing, making sure we have done the research in terms of insurance that we need to have as OBN, the cost of it, all of that. Like all of those discussions can be taking place at the same time, or that research can be taking place at the same time we're doing this kind of 30,000-foot view of, who are we? What do we want to be? What are we trying to accomplish?
Mhm.
And then, at the same time, someone can start putting in clarifying language into our, if we're okay with the language that the lead team is the board members, that's fine. We also need to clarify who the officers are. So in the office, and what the officers, because if you're going to go to comply with state board nonprofit, you have to have officers. You have to have 3.
Mhm.
And we need to say what their job is. Otherwise, if you don't say what their job is what the state defines their job is. So like in like I think I shared with you as before, in our bylaws, the president the president's job is like virtually nothing. Their job is to is to do whatever the church directs them to do in legal matters. That's what the president's job is. The president doesn't have any other authority in the church, doesn't have any other responsibility. And the same thing with the rest of the board. That's all that they do. And we limited it that way. And it had been limited that way before, but even before I came, sometimes the person who was president, thought they were like president of the United States, and they clearly weren't. So that language can be added and clarified, and defined, so that that we're not again creating another monster where you have where whoever the moderator facilitator is, whoever the lead team is, but then there's this president of the board, and all this other stuff, and they're like, well, who's actually in charge?
Mhm.
Who's actually leading this, right? I mean, right now, um, we don't have the split power that you see at the HVBC level, which is you have the executive director or executive treasurer, I guess is official title, and you have the president. And that's split. And the executive treasurer is a staff paid constant position. President changes every couple of years. So, we don't have that, at least right now. And, right now it's like we have just one position. And so, what do we do, right? Do we just continue to, that way, or, and that's all part of stuff that can be done now.
Gotcha.
Talking
Okay.
about, sorry, talking about having more than one train going, we do need to check with I guess State Farm. I don't know if you've done that already, Bong, but um, the indemnification.
Yes.
I did see that in the document in front of me now.
Yes.
Thank you for reminding me. Let me have that conversation with State Farm.
Okay.
Yeah. So the page 2 of our February 23 Article 9 should read, and the lead team member who is moderator shall serve as president. The lead team member who is vice moderator shall serve as vice president, and the lead team treasurer shall serve as a treasurer.
Right, that kind of thing. But again, you want to clarify what the role of president is.
Okay.
So you don't, in other words, people who don't understand what these words mean, they're like,
Mm.
why are you giving so much, authority to one person? It's like you're not giving that much authority to anybody if the as president they can only act as the board, as the board directs or as the OBN directs, whether it's OBN in session or OBN as a lead team.
Okay.
So we need that kind of clarifying language. And we also need to say what happens when, there is no, um, when there is no moderator or, who would serve.
Okay. Ms. Charlene, you're able to put notes on that, and may I ask us now or someone to put some qualifying role for that president and vice president and treasurer? Or is it just more that's a president that we're looking at, or the three offices itself?
You need to have them all defined.
Okay.
And and you can do it as one lump thing, which says, these three officers' responsibility is to be like, I don't know, everybody's church has different language, but it's something like to be like the legal representatives for the church in matters dealing with blah blah blah. And the main thing it comes up in most churches, hopefully you're not getting sued a lot, is if you're selling property or buying property, like these are the people that would sign.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to leave, but if you can send me the notes after, that would be great.
Yeah. Yes. In
Okay.
fact, that language, blah, 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 will show up too, right, Matt?
Okay. Okay, great. Okay.
So,
Thank
so
you.
we'll definitely put that in context too. So that's good. I like the idea that it could be lumped together and in a short statement that could be well understood. Uh, I'm in page two, indemnification. I was asked to look at the State Farm. I will do that, but on page three, um, which is I think the final page of the notes. It starts with the OBN leadership team members shall not be held responsible for any debts or obligations of OBN. OBN shall indemnify the leadership team members from personal liability resulting from the good faith actions made in discharging their duties. And OBN shall also obtain liability insurance to protect these officers and their assets from economic loss. Okay, we don't have that language in our current proposed.
Yeah, so we should, that's another thing to add. But again, I'd prefer not to write things as a committee. It's not efficient.
Okay. Matt, are you able to look at this and kind of clean it up?
By when? I need to have a deadline because
Mm-hmm.
I
Gotcha.
get I get a lot of things to do, and if I don't have a deadline, I ain't gonna do it.
Sure. May we meet again the next before the next OBN council will be June 18. Right now it's June 2. How about next week, June 9?
I'm actually gonna be on Kauai for a little vacay all next week.
All
So
next week.
yeah.
Don't
So
mind having it. This one phrase we can assign to you and you can do it by Friday.
well, if you want to try to, I can look at the whole thing.
Okay.
Uh, if we meet, say, on the 16th or the 15th or 16th of June,
Gotcha.
like my
And so,
days, both of those days right now are pretty open.
and Jamie, your June 15 Monday is open?
Um, yeah, in the morning it is. We've got vacation Bible school that night, so I can give an hour in the morning.
Gotcha. Okay. Our assignment then is to look over the February 23. Matt, you're going to help us polish a few of the languages and anything for Jamie. Anything, I'm looking over the notes and I don't see, other than the State Farm that I need to do.
Um,
Uh,
I
I
guess
don't
I
see.
guess I would if you guys can take another look at the document that I had turned in, because based on my research, I put in there all the steps and according to the internet, the costs of the 501(c). So if you see something missing, then we need to correct whatever I got wrong. So at least we're talking about, because
Yeah.
if you just say, "Hey, Jamie, can you do this?" In my
Right.
heart, I'm probably like, man, it's so much trouble. And wow, I
Mm.
don't know how much it costs. So we talk in negative generalities when actually maybe it's just not that hard. Maybe it's not that expensive. So I tried to put that information in. So if you have time to look into it, anybody has time to look into it and say, yep, that's exactly what it's going to take, or, oh, you've clearly forgotten this, that, and the other. So,
Okay. So
so
for part of
that
our
would be
task, yeah,
yeah, so
part of
that
our
would be,
task.
just double check me and make sure that we're talking in actual realities.
Okay, and that is written in our agenda. That's the OBN tax exempt opinion page that you have written. Okay,
Yeah,
double check, reread through that. Part of what I'm hearing is, would it be helpful if we have a conversation with Rick Curtis? Rick Curtis is the North American Mission Board as associational director for the associations. And he's actually reached out to me and the other moderators of the other islands um, to reconsider them as a resource and other needs. Um, Question: would we want to have a conversation? Is that a path we want to take?
as a resource, I mean, I'm always interested in people who have an informed, experience and have sort of credentials to answer questions and so on. Um, but I don't know that I don't know if it's um, I think my tendency would be rather to reach out to what is it called? The Southern Baptist Convention Association of Leaders, SBCAL,
Let's
rather
see.
than North American Mission Board. Um, I have, the reason is this, if I'll just reveal my bias. If a NAM representative tells us we should by all means do this or that, then that makes me really want to look into. It makes me suspicious of whether we should do this or that. So I would be glad to hear what he has to say, but I wouldn't necessarily be predisposed to just take whatever he says and be great. That sounds like a wonderful thing for us to do. But as a
Sure.
resource, praise God, and maybe that would be good. Yeah, the SBCAL, I think that's their website, sbcal.org.
Mhm.
Uh, I've had a really fruitful, over these years, I've had some conversation with their executive director, and uh, I have found him to be extremely warm and engaging, and so that would be probably my recommendation of if we need informed, um, expert counsel, then that would be a place I would start, I guess.
Matt, is that something you want to consider? Verbal conversation with another individual?
I mean, if we have specific questions,
Mhm.
then
Yeah,
fine. I don't like to just have general meetings with these guys because it tends to be like meet and greet. You get the little canned speech, like, hi, we're da 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 da, and then you walk away knowing you could have just read that on their website. But if we
right.
actually have purpose for the meeting. I don't, I mean, you might find this surprising and shocking, but I don't like to meet just to meet. Um,
Mhm.
and so, uh,
What?
what churches don't they run on meetings? I mean, I feel bad every time we have to call a meeting, but I know there's sometimes very necessary. But
Mhm.
these extra things, it's only if we have a very specific reason and questions, and then that person can actually
Mhm.
can actually help address that. Um and it's because of personal, like Jamie said, he's talked to this person. So if we said, Jamie, would he be able to communicate and help us with this, then Jamie could go, no, I don't know, or yes, and that's
Yeah.
really good, as
Yep.
opposed to going on fishing expeditions and hoping that my questions connect with that person's expertise. And I think that's the problem when you bring in some of these guys from NAM, and they don't, as Jamie prefaced everything. Do they know our situation? Do they know, the unique challenges and the unique strengths of what is going on Oahu, or are they just giving you the, this is what works in Tennessee kind of speech? So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't want to meet unless we really have a reason to meet.
All right. So with the SBCAL, Jamie, in the level of your relationship with the exec, maybe you could have a personal conversation and just give us an ear.
Yeah. If you can email me the exact question or questions that we want to hear from their leader on, to Matt's
Mhm.
point. So we know exactly um what the purpose is.
Yeah, and I think, like, is this one of the guys you talked to that kind of made their associations more independent?
This is no, this is a different guy. This is a guy who was bivocational pastor and moderator of a association in the Atlanta area, pretty big. And then so he was doing it bivocationally all over the place. And then recently he is now full-time the leader of this. It's basically like a professional or a network of Southern Baptist Convention associational leaders.
Right.
And
Well, he may know somebody, because to me, like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
would love to hear more, like,
Yeah, when I talked to him, I forget the reason why, but one of the questions that I had was, what's a right size, in terms of budgeting and staffing for an association of our approximate means. And so he put me in touch with a bivocational associational leader up in the Northeast who had a lot of commonality to our situation. So yeah, so he definitely handed me on to someone that had perspective that seemed to line up in a fruitful way. But if you give me the questions, I'm glad to reach out to him and um, see what he's able to, if he's willing to weigh in, if he's willing to get on a call with us or whatever.
okay,
And can the question be our conversation 501(c)(3) should an association?
So his name is Ray Gentry, I guess. Yeah, I guess the question is, yeah, from his perspective, what are the pros and cons to the association registering as a separate 501(c) entity?
yeah, and I think too it'd be, and this would be included in that question because that was pretty much the question I was going to say, but it would be like, of the associations he knows that have done it, what have been the motivating reasons.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then if it's been a while, what has been the result? Like, has the result been a stronger association? Has it been a stronger relationship with, HPBC? Has it, what is it? What's actually happened, right?
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, yeah, so that those would be some of the questions I would that if the guy doesn't know, it's fine,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
at least we find out before we meet. I'd hate to meet and the guy goes, "Well, I don't know," or I could look into that. It's like,
Mhm.
all right, that could have been an email, right? Uh,
right.
Sounds
so
good. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, everybody feel comfortable where we're at. We have that February 23. We have our task to do. Matt, I'll catch up with you on Friday, or you can email it to all of us, whatever you come up with the verbiage. And Jamie, you can just let us know what that conversation is like with
yep,
SBCAL, and I'll send you all my research on the insurance coverage, and um, and then Miss Charlene's gonna put all the notes for us. Okay,
sounds good. I think that
Matt, I'll
was
ask you. Yeah,
fruitful.
go ahead, Jamie. I'm sorry.
No, I just said that sounds good. I think this was a fruitful thing to be engaged in.
Okay, excellent. Um, next meeting for the leadership team, I will not be around, and Jamie, may I ask you to moderate?
What's the date of that?
That is June 18, 10 a.m.
Yes, I can do that.
Excellent. Okay. I'll send you
wait,
all my notes and everything.
what time did we say? June 15th?
June 15 is at 9 a.m.,
Yeah. Okay.
same time as today.
All right. That's fine. Got it. All right. Thanks.
Thank
All
you. Thank you,
righty.
everyone.
Thank you all.
Hasta la
All right.
pasta.
Blessings. Aloha.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.